The neoclassical economic model functions as a static machine designed to solve for the optimal allocation of resources based on given mathematical inputs. Market efficiency is guaranteed here, provided the model assumes perfect information and fixed preferences. The system remains frozen in this ideal state. Real-world markets are driven by friction, human panic, and sudden shocks. These forces routinely break the static mathematical grid. The model assumes information is given. In practice, relevant data is never static or perfectly distributed among participants. Furthermore, economic transactions are inseparable from the institutions surrounding them. No exchange occurs in a social vacuum. Understanding how actual economies function requires us to step away from this mechanistic ideal. We can turn instead to the Austrian framework, which views the market as a continuous, open-ended process of discovery, or the institutionalist framework, which treats the market as a historically embedded structure defined by social and political power. Mastering these two competing ontologies allows for a more precise analysis of modern political economy, looking past the limits of perfect competition. The Austrian model is built on radical subjectivism, a concept championed by economists like G.L.S. Shackle and L.M. Lockman. The Lockman problem posits that the future remains non-existent at the point of decision. Economic actors operate in a void of radical uncertainty. In this kaleidic world, action is a product of entrepreneurial imagination. Actors send out exploratory pulses into the dark. Many fail and disappear, representing venturists that find no market. Because of this decentralized nature, F.A. Hayek rejected the term economy in favor of Catallaxy. To Hayek, an economy implies a consciously planned hierarchy, a single organization directing means towards specific known ends. A Catallaxy, by contrast, is a spontaneous order. It proceeds without an overarching collective goal, emerging entirely from individual adaptations to changing conditions. When an exploratory entrepreneurial pulse connects with a specific human need, a trade occurs and a price is generated. In the Austrian view, a price functions as a packet of epistemic data, transmitting information through the social network. These signals coordinate the tacit knowledge of millions of disparate actors, allowing a complex society to function without central directives. The market, therefore, acts as an emergent epistemological tool, using these sensory price signals to coordinate complex human survival. Hayek illustrated the mechanics of Catallaxy through a disruption in the global tin market. Imagine a sudden, localized shock to the supply. Perhaps a mine collapses, or a new industrial application for tin is discovered. At the source of extraction, the cost of acquiring tin rises sharply. This data point ripples outward from the source, reaching manufacturers and consumers across the globe. The cause of the shortage is irrelevant to the end user. They do not need to know why the metal is scarce to alter their behavior. They respond only to the price. Consumers and producers automatically begin economizing or seeking substitutes, guided entirely by the rising cost. Prices function as a mass communication system. They coordinate complex social action without requiring total knowledge from any single participant. The institutionalist framework challenges this spontaneous vision. Economists like Karl Polanyi and Mark Granovetter argue that markets do not exist as independent natural systems. They focus on embeddedness, the idea that all economic action is rooted in social and political structures. Polanyi described the self-regulating, disembedded market as a stark utopia. It is a theoretical model with no actual historical precedent. Economic action is shaped and constrained by networks of cultural norms and the power of the state. John R. Commons expressed this through the concept of the fifth partaker. Every exchange involves more than a buyer and a seller. Society, through the presence of the law, is always in the room. The formal institutions of property, contract, and tort law define the literal boundaries of what can be traded and how. This structural power often leads to administered prices. Massive corporate and state entities leverage their position to dictate and administer prices, bypassing the open process of discovery. Here, the market is an evolutionary arena purposefully designed by societal interest groups, rather than an expression of natural laws. Within this ontology, prices reflect the underlying distribution of power as much as they reflect material scarcity. We are left with a tension between the emergent biological network described by the Austrians and the architectural power structure of the institutionalists. Analyzing a modern economy requires holding both frameworks in mind. Each reveals a different facet of the same system. The Austrian model identifies the market's capacity as a decentralized information processor, moving knowledge that no central planner could reach. At the same time, the institutionalist perspective highlights the physical and legal scaffolding required for any global trade. The container ships and the laws governing them are the products of human design. A price is an instrument of discovery and an artifact of political authority. The market is a politically embedded engine of human discovery. To understand it, one must map both its information flows and its structural boundaries.